Good morning, students. This lecture topic is polymerase chain reaction. Polymerase chain reaction, it was actually the concept thought was actually started in 1971 when there is something called as repair synthesis process was reported, which was an artificial system containing primers and template that allow DNA polymerase to copy a target gene. So DNA polymerase was used initially, which was unable to withstand high temperature, and like Chen in 1976 discovered a novel DNA polymerase from extreme thermophile thermos aquaticals, which naturally dwell in hot water springs. Later, using this Taq DNA polymerase, Carey Mullis in 1985 invented a process called as polymerase chain reaction, for which he got the Nobel Prize also. So, PCR is a technique using DNA polymerase and template and the other required components. You can cancel. You can generate the amplification of specific DNA of interest, or else what we say the target DNA fragment from a pool of DNA. So you can actually isolate one DNA fragment from a huge other DNA present. So PCR is therefore a technique of purification or cloning. It's also called as acellular cloning. Now, how do you conduct a PCR? You need to have certain components of PCR, like for example, the template DNA. That means, for example, if you are isolating a gene fragment or you are isolating some promoter region of like say 500 base pair from yeast genome, so you have to have the template DNA, isolate the genomic DNA of yeast. And then if you know the sequence of the genomic DNA, so you need to have primers. Now the DNA is double stranded, and when you say double stranded, it is running opposite in direction. That is, you have 5 prime to 3 prime running, that is called as the forward strand. 3 prime to 5 prime, the opposite strand, is called as the reverse strand. So now you need to have the 5 prime primers for both the forward strand and the reverse strand. So you need to have two primers, and then you need to have the components, that is deoxyribonucleotide triphosphates, ATP, GTP, CTP, and TTP, and buffer solution, an ideal condition in which the polymerase can function. The buffer solutions should contain divalent cation because they are very important. They act as cofactors for Taq polymerase, which increase its polymerase activity. If you use magnesium, it's very good. Manganese also people use, mm, but manganese is not generally used because higher concentration may lead to error rate during DNA synthesis. So magnesium is the preferred divalent cation. Now coming to Taq polymerase, initially people used Taq polymerase as such. Now you have diversity of Taq polymerase, because when you start a PCR reaction, you are actually mixing everything and then keeping into the PCR machine, and then starting the process, which has various steps. When you do it you have to do this very carefully because you should not have any non-specific amplification. But if you do it at room temperature, where the temperature is slightly fluctuating between the countries, then there is definitely non-specific amplification, which is not we do not want that in a PCR reaction. So what people have done, come up with various variety of Taq polymerases, a chemically bound Taq polymerase, which only when the high temperature is reached, the chemical is released from the Taq polymerase. The binding of this chemical chemical to the Taq polymerase is done in such a way that it is not affecting the Taq polymerase when it is bound, and also when it is released out at high temperature, that is the first initial denaturation, it will not affect the PCR reaction. People have done that is what we call as the hot start polymerase. Now Taq polymerase has certain error possibility. So if you do not want any error to be performed during PCR, you can use something called as PFU polymerase, that is isolated from the bacterium Pyrococcus furiosus. Okay, so these are the component. That means you need to have a template DNA, you need to have primers, you need to have DNTP optimal buffer with divalent cation, and you need to have polymerase, Taq polymerase. Now coming to the procedure, if you are trying to amplify any product, it is designed like 20 to 40 repeats, that what we call as thermal cycles. 20 to 40 thermal cycle. Now each cycle consists of 3 discrete temperature steps, that is denaturation, annealing, and extinction. The thermal cycles are often preceded by temperatures at more than 90 degrees Celsius and followed by final product extinction or brief storage at 4 degrees Celsius. The temperature and the duration of each cycle is determined based on various parameters like the type of DNA polymerase used, the melting temperature of the primers, concentration of divalent ion, DNTPs in the reaction. So basically there are 5 steps. There is initial denaturation, annealing, and extinction. This is what we call a cycle, one cycle, cycle denaturation, cycle annealing, and cycle extinction, and the final extinction. So we'll see each one step. The first is like the initial denaturation and denaturation. Initial denaturation involves heating of the reaction to a temperature of 94 to 96 degrees Celsius for 7 to 10 minutes. I have not mentioned here, kindly write down this as notes. Initial denaturation involves heating of the reaction to a temperature 94 to 96 degrees for 7 to 10 minutes. So if you are doing a hot start using a hot start DNA polymerase, then the activity requires little higher temperature range of temperature. That will not affect our DNA. It just allows the DNA to be separated. Now the double stranded DNA is double stranded because of the hydrogen bonding between the two DNA strands. At higher temperature, this DNA strands are separated and they become single strand. The initial heating for a long period helps in gradual and proper unfolding of genomic DNA and subsequent denaturation, and thus exposing target DNA sequence to corresponding primers. Now you come to the second step, where we call it as cycle denaturation. This is again not done for 7 to 8 minutes. It is done for 20 to 30 seconds, where this denaturation requires heating reaction mixture to 94 to 98 degrees Celsius for 20 to 30 seconds. It results in melting of the DNA template by disrupting the hydrogen bond between complementary bases, yielding single-stranded DNA molecule. Next, what we do is something called as annealing. So now you can see that the primers are designed, the forward the template DNA strand, there is a reverse template DNA strand. Now you have primers which are designed for the 5' end, 5' to 3' of the both the strands. Okay, now once the two strands are separate, the temperature of the reaction is lowered to between 50 to 65 degrees Celsius. Okay, you have to be very careful when you are writing, because the primers are always annealed from 5' to 3'. The direction of synthesis of DNA polymerase is from 5' to 3' direction. Okay, now the lowering of the temperature is between 50 to 65 degrees for 20 to 50 seconds. Why do you give that lowering? It is based on the primer composition. Like, you know how many A's and how many G's are there, and based on that you can calculate what is the annealing temperature of these primers and bring down the temperature from denaturation temperature to that specific annealing temperature. When you bring down, it should be like 3 to 5 degrees below the TM of the primers. Then optimal binding of primers happen, and then you can go to the next step, what is called as extension. Now when you do extension, is like nothing but elongation step, where the DNTPs are added to the 3' end of the primers with the help of DNA polymerase enzyme. The type of DNA polymerase applied in this reaction determines the optimum extension temperature at this step. DNA polymerase synthesizes a new strand complementary to its template strand by addition of DNTP, condensing the 5' phosphate of DNTP and 3' hydroxyl group of the end of nascent DNA strand. So you know that DNA polymerase can add up to 1000 base per minute. The amount of DNA target is exponentially amplified under the optimum condition of elongation step. The drawback of this Taq polymerase is row replication fidelity. It lacks a 3' to 5' exonuclease proofreading and has an error rate of about 1 in 9000 nucleotides. Okay, so now you have come across 3 steps. That is the second step, denaturation, annealing, and then extinction. So these denaturation, annealing, and extinction, these are repeated in number of cycles, around minimum of 30 cycles, to get a final product like this. The first cycle, so every time you copy a DNA strand, there are 2 strands, you double the copy, so 2 to the power of n. For example, at the second cycle, 2 to the power of 2, you have 4 copies. First cycle. Second cycle, 2 to the power of 3, 8 copies. Third cycle, 2 to the power of 4, that is 16 copies. Like this you can go till 30th cycle, that is 2 to the power of 31, that is 2 billion copies will be there at the end of your cycle. That is, even if you have a huge genomic DNA, your PCR product will be the major product in the PCR reaction mix. Okay, there are some key factors which you have to remember when you're doing a PCR reaction or designing the primer. The annealing temperature you have to decide in such a way that it is selectively amplifying your product of interest. So it has you coming to application, it has huge applications in forensic, in diagnostic, but I have given in terms of the type of PCR. You can also think the application process. You can have a conventional PCR where you are targeting one particular type of gene, and then that is amplified, like what process view, what I mentioned. The next you have something called as multiplex PCR. What is here is an example of multiplex PCR. Multiplex PCR is simultaneous detection of multiple targets in a single reaction well with different pairs of primers of each target. Suppose you have 5 pathogens which you are suspecting in a patient sample, and you have taken the patient sample, isolated the DNA. So these 5 strains or 5 different pathogens has a specific enzyme which are different in these 5. Then you design this primers, that is 10 different primers for these 5 pathogens, and you have the mix. Definitely the patient has sample DNA, what we would have isolated is a mix, and then you amplify with this particular set of primers, add it into a same PCR vial. Then you see the amplified product. Suppose one expected product is where all the five pathogen varies, then you can see which product appears, that pathogen is present. So it's very easy detection step. Multiplex PCR is used in life science, clinical diagnostic. This is how the gel looks like. The multiplex PCR is used in life science research, clinical diagnostics, and forensic laboratory. So you can detect multiple targets in one PCR reaction. If you see, the most common type of multiplex PCRs are SNP genotyping, pathogen detection, genetically modified organism detection, forensic studies, food analysis, mutation and polymorphism analysis, gene deletion analysis, template quantitation, linkage analysis if you want, RNA detection. So it's very more information you get in less of the sample. So the use of DNTPs is reduced, the use of enzymes and other consumable is reduced, time is reduced, less input of material is needed, and more data for limited starting material. Here errors are also less. You have the real-time versions of multiplex also. Coming to next is reverse RT-PCR. What do we call as reverse transcriptase PCR? Based on the type of reverse transcription you do, you can have single step RT-PCR or double step RT-PCR. You know that is for detecting a particular type of mRNA, right? The next is what I have shown here. The big picture is the nested PCR. So now you can see the template DNA is there in the first step, and then you have added some primer, and then again that primer selectively is getting amplified. Now the template DNA is left out. Once that bigger fragment is amplified, again you have your specific gene of interest primers, and then you amplify specifically your target. Okay, you can do this nested PCR in genomic DNA libraries. Nested PCR is used in situations in which it is necessary to increase the sensitivity or specificity of a PCR. That is when amplifying a particular member of polymorphic gene family, or amplifying a cDNA copy of an mRNA present in very low abundance in clinical specimen. Nested PCR involves two sequential amplification reaction using different primers. The product of the first amplification reaction is used as a template for the second PCR, which are primed by oligonucleotides that are placed internal to the first primer pair. The use of two pairs of oligonucleotides allows a high number of cycles to be performed, thereby increasing the sensitivity of the PCR. The improved sensitivity of the reaction derives from the binding of two separate set of primers to the same target template. So when you want to amplify segments of long templates, then you need to know what sequence you are amplifying. The next example is qPCR. So now you know that coronavirus outbreak is there going on, and then if you want to find out specifically, you can use a PCR method to find out whether there is your sample contains that viral copy of DNA. Coming to this quantitative PCR, the quantitative real-time PCR it is, and it is not reverse transcription PCR, it is real-time PCR. Real-time, why we are telling? You're monitoring the ongoing process. Okay, now quantitative, because you can quantitatively amplify. See, you would have done agarose gel electrophoresis. When you do agarose gel electrophoresis, you would have added ETPR for me only selectively binding with DNA. Why? ETBR is an intercalating agent. When you have this intercalating agent in the agarose gel, it binds only to the DNA. When you expose it to UV, then you have the selectively you can see glowing DNA bands. You can think of the similar principle here. One example what I will try to give is cybergreen. Imagine cybergreen is a ETBR kind of a dye which intercalates or binds to double-stranded DNA. So now you know the steps of PCR. The first is initial denaturation. The second step is annealing, amplification, extension is happening. So denaturation, annealing, extension. Denaturation, annealing, extension is the cycles repeating. So every extension you have new double-stranded DNA form. Suppose you have a dye which can bind only to double-stranded DNA. When it is denatured, no binding of DNA. When there is annealing, no binding of DNA. When there is extension, there is binding of DNA. So every cycle there is an increase in binding of DNA, right? So that is why in denaturation no binding, annealing no binding, but as the cycles increases, there is logarithmic increase of binding of DNA. So this is monitored live, that means in the process. The example of this dye is cybergreen. Apart from that, you can have fluorescent probes, Tachman probes, molecular beacons. Many different kinds of probes can be used here in real-time PCR. Basically, this is used to study gene expression, quantitatively analyze whether the sample contains a specific type of fragment. Another example is assembly PCR. Assembly PCR is a special technique. It is used to say assemble two gene pieces. Now if you have two vectors, what you will do, you'll take the two vectors and then remove the insert what you have added, and then you see to it that one ends are digested with specific enzymes so that you can ligate the inserts and then make your lengthy piece of interest or the gene of interest. So assembly PCR does not like, it is not like you're digesting, but using the PCR primers you are selectively amplifying two different gene and then you are assembling in PCR only. Okay, so say you have two double-stranded DNA, you have to take the primers in such a way that they are matching in between. That is, the forward primer of one gene and the reverse primer of one gene are similar. You can add linkers or adapters so that they are like overlapping, and then you amplify in the subsequent steps. You have the assembly of this, and the finally you get A plus B, that is the total two genes are fused together. Okay, so there is another called as methylation specific PCR, where you have amplification of a specific methylation product. So applications of PCR are huge in applied research and in basic research. In basic research, you can study anything like mutation study, screening, drug discovery, a specific enzyme amplification, and then classification of organism you can do using PCR, genotyping, molecular ecology, archaeology, or molecular epidemiology. You can use PCR like qPCR for bioinformatics, and then genomic cloning, site-directed mutagenesis, gene expression studies, etc. In applied research, if you want like detection of pathogen, DNA fingerprinting, gene therapy, etc., these are few applications what I have mentioned. So in this section of video, what we have seen is what is a PCR, what are the steps of the PCR, what are the different types of PCR and application of PCR. Thank you.